Morning everyone, how we doing? So I'm jumping on today. It's been a while since I've done a video, definitely before the summer holidays I think. But this week is back to school week, so I want to talk about that. I'm going to talk about anxieties in children, but also anxieties in you. I'm going to relate it to going to school and the return to school, because obviously that's a subject that is probably on most of everyone's minds at the moment, but I'm going to relate it to a lot of other things. So I think the first thing that I want to talk about is you starting to notice the difference between your anxieties and the anxieties of your children. Notice if there is a difference. Notice how you're actually feeling about certain situations. So at the moment, I'll give an example of children are going back to school. It's been 5.5, 6 months since they've been in school. And we're starting to think, what if they don't settle in? What if they miss me? What if they have some of the same issues that were happening before lockdown? If it's not getting on with someone in the classroom, if it's not getting on with a particular teacher, if it's struggling with a certain aspect of academia, whether it's maths, English or science or whatever, are they going to keep struggling? Is it going to be even harder now because you've missed so much learning? Lots of different anxieties and worries that are in your mind. Now, when it comes to your child or children going into school, how are they feeling? Are they feeling anxious because you're feeling anxious? Now, this is a tough one because you've got to be completely honest. We think we hide our anxieties from our children, okay? I've spoken to a lot of parents, and I know myself and Nikki, my wife, you know, we think we hide our anxieties and our worries about things really well from our children. I speak to so many families that say they don't know that I'm anxious about this. I'm telling you they do, and it's not our fault. Because children are naturally have empathy. They feel it, they live with you, they're close to you, they've got a bond with you. Particularly if you know you're really, really close to your child. They just know, they pick up on it. So we can try and hide it all we like, but if you've got those anxieties and you're not doing anything about them, your children are going to pick up on them. And that is naturally going to make them more anxious. So my advice to you is, work on yourself. Okay, whatever means that might be. And if you need advice on it, give me a shout. But you know what you need to do when you're feeling anxious about something, when you're worrying about something. You know what helps you deal with it. If you don't, I suggest you go and seek out help to help you ease those worries and those anxieties. Because unless you work on yourself, unless you do that work to help you calm and help you settle your mind, then you're not really going to be able to support your children effectively, because it's still there. You're hiding it, you think you're hiding it, but it's still there. So my first piece of advice would be honest, be really honest about how you're feeling and how much of an impact how you're feeling is having on your child, and work on it, do something about it. This can be, at the moment, as I say, this is relatable to going back to school. Spoke to a lot of families who the children are having a lot of anxieties in going to school. That's something you can do about it, okay? You have an open discussion with them. Not only can you work on it, but have an open discussion, ask them what they're anxious about, reassure them, and at the same time reassure yourself, okay? So you're getting this whole environment of reassurance, of however you're feeling, it's going to be okay. Which brings me on to my next point. Resilience. Okay, so it's very easy for us to take our children out of scenarios that are going to make them worry, that are going to make them feel anxious, that are going to make them panic, that are going to make them scared, frustrated, all those negative feelings. It's really easy for us to bubble wrap them and take them out of those scenarios. But is that the right thing to do? That's an open question. Is that the right thing to do? Okay. As a parent, it's really hard because you're emotionally involved, and I say this all the time. myself, even with my own son, the advice I would give out, sometimes I find it really hard to put in place for myself because he's my own son. Okay, I'm emotionally involved, I'm emotionally tied to that situation, so sometimes it takes somebody else to help you see the woods for the trees, which is what I'm trying to do, I suppose. So when you find yourself in a situation where you're worried about how a certain environment or situation is going to affect your child, you need to ask yourself some questions about, in a few years' time, what would I have wished I'd have done? What would my future self be saying to me? So if you find yourself at the moment where you don't particularly want your child going into school right now because it's too soon and they need a transition into school, and they don't particularly like the teacher they're going to work with, keeping them away from school, is that the right thing to do? Okay? Is that going to help build their resilience? Because there's some situations that in life we need to go into even when we're feeling nervous, even when we're feeling scared, and deal with it. So is this a good time for them to learn that actually, even though you're feeling all of these things, you go in anyway and you get on with it, and then we'll talk at the end of the day and see how you're feeling, and then revisit that for as often as you need to, for as many days as you need to. How are you feeling today then? How are you feeling in the beginning of the day? How are you feeling at the end of the day? Look, you felt all of those feelings and you're still okay. You're still here to tell the tale. You know, nothing major happened. If it goes deeper than that, and that anxiety is sustained and carries on and on and on, then maybe we need to sit down and seek some help and find out what are the underlying issues. But generally, we all feel anxious in certain situations, so our job as parents is to help our children see these through and ride those waves of emotion that are negative and feel really, really bad at the time and really, really worrying, and there's butterflies in your stomach, those sicky feelings. I took Jay somewhere the other night, and his teeth were actually chattering as he was approaching the situation that he was going into, and it would have been so easy for me and him to go, you know what, should we just jump in the van and go? But where does that get him? Does that mean every time he feels like that, he just turns away and stays away and then goes back to his comfort zone, back to his bubble? I don't think that would have helped him in that scenario. So we went and I supported him in the best way that I knew I could, which to him at sometimes it was like, go away dad, leave me alone type thing. But I was supporting him as best I could, and I let him get on with it even though his teeth were chattering. He was literally shaking with nerves, and I've seen it a few times in him, but I really noticed it this time. And then he got through it, and by the end of it, his chest was out, his chin was up, and the confidence was seeping out of him, and that was really, really good to see. And that was a class example of riding it out, and hopefully that moment, that situation is something we can go back to and refer to. So that's my advice in regards to resilience. How do we build resilience in children? And I would say it's seeking opportunities to show them that yes, you felt these negative feelings in those moments, but you did it anyway, and look, you're fine. In fact, you're more than fine. You're better for it. So that's it really. I think it's nearly a 10-minute video, so it's I'm not going to go on too much more, but I hope there's some little tips in there that are going to help with the current situation and maybe your situation in general. Sometimes having these conversations with different parents and different people help me come up with ideas where what we've been talking about is going to help more people. So that's why I make the video. So yeah, good to be back in the mix and back on a video. If you've got any questions or need any support or anything, just give us a shout, and we can get chatting and see where we go from there. Have a good day. See you later.